Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, November 8th, coming to you live from the Base Boys headquarters, located conveniently in the heart of Israel. I'm just kidding. We're out here in Oklahoma, baby. Glad to be here today. Don't you just love having a country with politicians that represent our interests?
Oh, I love having politicians who absolutely love the American people and serve and protect them with their lives.
Oh, man, I'm sick of it.
We watched Election Day last night, and I think our overall takeaway is America lost. That's the only takeaway I got. I was watching just every single thing go through, like different measure, and I'm like, who's voting for this? Are the elections rigged, or is American people that stupid? And that's the thing I go back and forth.
Yeah, man. I say we got to get rid of these machines and go towards paper ballots. I don't have any trust in machines. It's just too easy to hack and rig them. We got a story out of Pennsylvania where there's potential rigging on the machines. I don't know if we want to cover it today because I don't like to be first one on the story. I haven't really looked into it much, but maybe wait a couple days before we get anything. We don't want to end up like have a Dominion lawsuit. You know what I'm saying?
Dominion, who are they? I love them. Great work all over.
Great work, but yeah, we're sick of it. Nobody has trust in the establishment anymore. Just so much bureaucracy. It's hard to weave through all the crap and really understand what's going on as an everyday citizen. So we're gonna try to dissect it for you and see what's going on and tell you all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a great show for you today, and we're gonna go over some interesting topics.
Awesome. Let's get into the show today, boys. So the dying question is, Micah, whose side are you on? Are you on Israel or Palestine's side?
Oh, there's so many great questions with that one. Neither. America's side. America first, baby.
Yeah, the great answer, man. It's all about calling out corrupt government regimes, terrorist regimes, political states that are funded by the Rothschilds and have nothing to do with, what we believe to be, real biblical Judaism, and so we just want to call out those criminal entities that control the world and cause so much chaos, destroy civilians' lives, and really just, don't do anything to move forward solid, righteous human interest.
And here's one of the reasons why I think that we have probably one of the best perspectives on this issue is we're not for Israel. We're not for Palestine. We're for America. And a lot of other news organizations, a lot of other people have a horse in the race. They're pushing what they want onto you, and they're trying to convince you, hey, vote for this side or root for this side. That's one of the things that we do have a unique voice on because we do not have a dog in this fight. We are purely for America, and we're looking out for what America's best interest is. And a lot of other media companies, a lot of other talk show hosts, a lot of other people don't actually have that perspective that we do, where we look at it going, what benefits America? Is Israel our number one ally? Are they our best friend in the world? Or can we look at it and go, hey, this is a drain to the American taxpayer? Or, hey, why do we have so many people on college campuses basically supporting Hamas or Palestine? And that's one of the great ways that we have a interesting voice in this, where we have a different perspective than a lot of other news organizations. We're not CNN. We're not the Young Turks. We're not the Daily Wire. We're not even Mug Club. We are Base Boys Media. We put America, we put God, we put family, we put country first.
Absolutely. And my question to the conservatives that support Israel is, how can you support Israel at this point? I mean, what interest do we have with them? I know everyone wants to get biblical with it and say that's the promised land, but it's more of a political state that just is killing innocent civilians. I mean, you pulled up the numbers. There's estimated at 10,000 Gazans dying in this, mostly civilians, from all these aerial assaults that we're seeing from Israel. And we have reports about only 30 Israel troops have died. So, it's just a complete imbalance, and it's like I think everyone loses the big picture that it's evil controlling the world and evil controlling the governments, and that's what you have to eradicate. I mean, no political solution will solve the spiritual problem of man, and that's where it's at. But let's get into our first thing here. So one thing that doesn't make sense to me is all of the rhetoric that we're seeing from Antony Blinken. So I guess he's Jewish. I didn't know this. Surprise.
Yeah.
So he goes to Israel last couple weeks ago and basically said that we'll pull up the article here. So we've got Mr. Antony Blinken visiting with Bibi Netanyahu, and in this, Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, or in his meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, he says, "We also know that Israel cannot resume control and responsibility of Gaza. It's important to note that Israel has made it clear he has no intention or desire to do that." So the message that we're getting from our Secretary of State is, hey, we have no intention. Israel has made it clear they have no intention to go further into Gaza and escalate the situation. Well, then that was November 3rd, and then on November 6th, Mr. Bibi Netanyahu says Israel will, for an indefinite period, will have overall security and responsibility for governing Gaza. So the messages that we see from these meetings and these leaders, they don't add up. They contradict one another. What do you make of this, Micah?
It's doublespeak. So what they do is they say, hey, we are not going to invade Gaza. Hey, we're going to protect innocent lives. We're going to do this. And so it's a message that's sent out across the airwaves. They try to get people on their side, and then in the darkness of night, then they go in and attack Gaza, which should be scary to every single American, because it's more ways that we're being lied to. And if we're going back to Blinken, last month he went over to Israel and he had a whole speech. He went there and said, as Secretary of State, as a Jew, as a husband, as a father, he went over there and said, hey, I am Jewish, so I am on your side. Our representative of America goes to Israel and says, hey, I am on Israel's side. Blinken shouldn't be on Israel's side. He should be on America's side. It's always should be Americans first before any other country. We should not have a dog in this race. Or horse in this race. We should be putting American interests before anyone else. Like, for example, we have Benjamin Netanyahu basically declaring that Gaza is his. They're basically in a hot conflict right now in the Gaza Strip, and America is backing it. The Secretary of State is, for all intents and purposes, condoning it, allowing Benjamin Netanyahu to do almost whatever he wants. And America's already involved in this conflict. Since we're already involved, which we should not be involved in this conflict. Since we're already involved in this conflict, we should be promoting peace and not hot conflict, which kills many, many people. Do you have that number of people who've already died in this conflict? Because I have the number of people who've just been buried alone in rubble. 2,300 people are believed to be buried from the strikes that reduced entire city blocks. I'm on like the AP for this story. 2,300 people buried. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of casualties. That's a lot of innocent civilians that were buried. That's a lot more than that there should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing we want to get into here is, so we have a report here from Zero Hedge and Tyler Durden. So a couple weeks ago, we had Netanyahu saying that he has, under no circumstances, at any stage of the war, was Prime Minister warned of the intentions on the part of Hamas. He actually redacted the statement, essentially. And he laid blame, essentially. He laid blame on the military for it, and then he redacted that statement. So, like I said, basically the whole point of this and what we're trying to get at is the narratives, the backtracking, the contradicting statements. Nothing adds up. It's like they're just juggling their deception and their lies to whatever they're trying to accomplish. I mean, I don't really know what they're getting out of doing this. I mean, because what do we see with war all the time?
Retirement package. We've seen so many different people who are the Secretary of Defense then go on to be CEO of Halliburton. What was it? I'm trying to remember his name. Who was Bush's vice president? Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney. He was highly involved in Halliburton before he became the VP. We see that there's a huge connection between the military-industrial complex and our own military, and they try to convince us that it is for our best. It's in our interest to go attack other countries. It's our best interest to have American boots on the ground. It's not city liberals who are fighting these battles. It's conservatives. It's our military. It's our troops who are being killed in these hot conflicts. And we need to awaken the American people to say no more wars, no more getting involved in other people's conflicts, no more foreign aid to countries that buried 2,300 people. And the conflict is just still escalating. This is just the beginning. I believe, let me pull up the number real quick, 2.3 million people, 70% of Gaza have fled their homes as Israel's air attacks have continued. And remember, this is coming from a place where I do not support Palestine. I do not support Israel. I support America. America will always be my interest. But when we see ourselves taking the side of Israel against Gaza, you go, why? And then that's where we get all of the massive protests to go out, where people are super angry and taken to the streets, tearing down statues, which makes you turn against the Palestinians. But we do not have an interest in this. This is not our battle. This is not our fight. We should get out of this completely. Maybe humanitarian aid, but that's it. I don't even want any aid leaving America. Fix our border first. Fix our fentanyl crisis first. Fix the 100,000 people plus every single year who die of fentanyl coming up for the Mexican border. We've got our own invasion we need to worry about. Why are we worrying about someone else's invasion before we even take care of our own?
Yeah, and I think as Americans, our two most important issues are the economy and the border. I mean, the border will, kind of supplement the economy if you can, stop an invasion of millions of illegals coming in and tampering with our economy. And I think so many people are emotional about this issue when it comes to immigration, and it's just they don't understand. See, just because a policy sounds good doesn't mean it will do good. And their policies are based off just almost pure emotion. It's like, oh, well, we have to let everybody in and let them in. But there's got to be a process. We can't have non-governmental organizations just funding all these people coming up through Mexico. I mean, how do you think these people get here? It's NGOs and other private corporations with big funding, probably from Soros and other global elites, that are helping these people come into this country. Like, it's not all by choice. I mean, all this is a well-oiled machine that works together very nicely, and it's a funded attack on America if you really break it down and look at what's going on. But it's got to stop.
Yeah, you were telling me about a NGO a couple days ago that's basically gives funding for people crossing the border, allows them to go from foreign countries like Somalia, the Middle East, even Central and Latin America up. I forgot. Do you remember what that?
Yeah, great. So it is the International Organization for Migration. So Michael Yan is actually really good about covering this, but essentially they are helping people with displacements, and they're funding all these people to get here to America. I won't go in detail because I don't know much about it, but I do know they have the organization. And depending on where you're at, it's either IOM or OIM. It's just a language displacement there, but you can look into that a little bit more. But yeah, it's got to stop because the economy's got to get better, and we've got to do better here. So
I'm looking up who funds the IOM, and it says governments, intergovernmental bodies, and civil society. Is our government funding this? That's gonna be a story for a different day. But it would be really interesting to find out if our own government is funding mass migration while trying to tell us, oh, we're fighting it, but at the same time they're funding it. that would be a really interesting deep dive that we're going to go into later. I'm going to get a little bit more information on that.
But, I mean, yeah. Oh, well, we'll move right along from that. Man, this border gets me going. I love it. So, man, the next story here is pretty crazy. So, for those that don't know, if you haven't been following, so Owen Schroyer, he's an InfoWars host, got 2 months in jail for basically just, we've talked about it on the show before, but he said he's inciting violence by saying 1776, death to tyrants, using his First Amendment right. Anyways, he's getting locked up for 2 months, and they moved him into solitary confinement for the first week for COVID. And then now they're moving him over to another solitary confinement for 30 days. And this is in regards to him making a call to InfoWars on the live show. And they're saying that basically constitutional speech is not being protected at this point. So we've got Congress doing some work here. So we'll share this InfoWars article. Matt Gaetz, you can actually go to the Twitter to watch the whole video. In a subcommittee hearing, he's talking to the Bureau of Prisons Director Colette Peters about disturbing allegations to the political retaliation by the agency. So we'll just break down some of the words that he says and kind of the point that we're trying to make here. So I get that you can't know the conditions of every single prisoner throughout the Bureau, but this is the one I've ripened and sent to you because I'm worried that throughout the Department of Justice and what we've endured, there are some people who are sort of being used as pawns and they're being mistreated in order to send a message to other people. You also haven't been able to share with us the entire confidence that it isn't happening in some cases. So he asks about Mr. Schroyer. She's not familiar with that. But essentially, this case is moving forward with Congress. It's good to see Congress getting involved. I mean, this man doesn't deserve solitary confinement. Solitary confinement should be reserved for the most brutal criminals. He's nonviolent. I mean, what a two-tier justice system we have. Because how many BLM rioters cause violence inside of riots, and they're not getting anything. A lot of them get off on nothing. Some of them get very little charges. But you step on the wrong blade of grass on January 6th.
Didn't even
you're going away. They're locking grandmas up. Giving them a couple months in jail. It's ridiculous.
He didn't even enter the Capitol, and they're still locking him up for his speech. I think that is a wild indictment of the American justice system right now. And I know this is a callback to a couple shows ago when you have Soros-funded DAs, Soros-funded judges, Soros-funded people all over. We see this type of justice transpire. We see this type of two-tiered justice system where people who are exercising their First Amendment right to free speech get locked up, and then when they use it again, solitary confinement. Solitary confinement, as you guys all know, form of torture. And they're giving it to him for just talking.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be way more than just a Congress inquiry about this. There needs to be firings. There needs to be people who are held accountable for taking away people's first right to free speech, and then locking people up in solitary confinement for continuing that.
It seems very politically motivated. You speak out the narrative. You speak out against the corporate narrative, and this is something that we could face someday. I mean, everybody in the space, in the community that we're in, is currently being attacked by corporate media, government, bureaucratic agencies. I mean, the entire InfoWars crew is under, a huge lawsuit with the $1 billion and Alex Jones and all that good stuff. I mean, everybody's constantly smeared, and you don't have that big money on your side and big support, because everything that's funded and everything that's in the news is all big tech funded, and the algorithms are in favor of the large corporate agenda. And it's hard to get that message out when you're fighting up against such a big system.
That it is. We're fighting a machine, man. We're going against the establishment. We're basically some of the only people who are telling you the truth and not lying to you, not trying to deceive you. Everyone else right now is trying to take your opinion, take your money, take away everything from you. and the government's not just enabling it, but the perpetrator of it. We're seeing them in action, stealing people's rights, and then penalizing people who speak out against that.
Yeah. Well, Micah, let's get into a hot topic, man. You like abortion?
Not in particular, but
wow, 84%. You know, you would think after years of having Planned Parenthoods in your neighborhoods, killing all those black babies, making human sacrifices for Moloch, maybe, you would think that they would be against it, but no. Let's just continue to support a system that just commits genocide. It's a blind genocide. You don't even know what's going on. It could be a lot of babies being born.
You could probably quote the great Kanye West with that one. We got our own Holocaust going on right now. Abortion. It's killed millions of people. I think he said 12 million black babies have been killed because of the abortion in America. That is their Holocaust, and it's crazy to see that they fell for the lie that abortion is healthcare for them, because it's not. Mm-hmm. It's dwindled their population. It's you could even quote Margaret Sanger, where she's putting it in minority areas to take care of the problem. I'm air quotes on that one. I don't want to get clipped.
But black men, 87% for abortion. That's pretty crazy. I mean, if the fatherlessness problem wasn't bad enough.
Yeah, I think I oftentimes go to that and I go, I feel sorry for a lot of black men, because they have been they're like number one target of propaganda. They're the number one target for a lot of different things. Like, so for example, rap culture has taken over the thing, lying to them that hey, abortion is healthcare. Hey, let's go for it. And they've been lied to in so many different ways, and the culture targets them. Here's something interesting. So, like, for example, I'm going to use Kanye West as an example. So what is he allowed to do? He's allowed to sell shoes and make rap. And then once he tries to get in the political world, his whole career gets destroyed and he gets debanked. How much do people like Daily Wire, how much does, let's say any news organization pull up black crime statistics and say, hey, look at this. And then when a guy tries to break free from the mold, he goes like, hey, this is not, they destroy his everything. He destroys his career, his marriage ends, everything gets broken down. So when I see that 87% are in support of abortion, it makes me sad, because I know that the black men have been lied to, and that they are the number one target of propaganda, and they're the number one target of even the government, because you just look at culture. They're the number one target of the culture war. They're the number one target of I don't know, promiscuity. They're the number one target of degeneracy, and that makes me sad, because if you go back to the 50s, blacks had the number one. They're number one in households with a father. You look at them now after they got rid of a lot of the after they got rid of a lot of the protections for actually no, they gave protections to women, saying, hey, you don't need a man in the house, and then they started going after women in the culture. Mm-hmm. You can basically see the black man has been continuously hit with propaganda that he doesn't need to be in the household. He can sling crack on the streets, and then that is a cool lifestyle for him. You kind of go like, wake up, that's not for you.
Yeah, you can kind of see what you just said a moment ago is, the fatherless thing wasn't really a thing back, 50s, 60s. And you look at the 65% are over here. Look at the stares that has been made with the statistics. Like, it's 54% against abortion, and then it's slowly going down. So, like, you can see the older generations, they were based in God. They were based in actual things, in sustainable culture and sustainable principles that work for people. Now it's such a careless mindset about human life, and it's just slowly progressed. And I think you see most cultures are being just completely diminished. I mean, you see it with just every culture, and it all just is so much government induced and corporate interest induced. So someone's got to make money somewhere, and someone's got to suffer somewhere at the same time.
We need the people to wake up to what's happening to them when they don't see that they have enemies, they have people who are out to hurt them and harm them. This is that exact result. When they realize that abortion is a huge lie that actually hurts you more than it helps you.
It's profitable business, man. I mean, those baby parts are, valuable real estate. They sell those stem cells, vaccines.
That they do. I remember going into the whole fetal cell lines for the Pfizer. Like Pfizer makes their vaccines with fetal cell lines. You start looking down all the different vaccinations. Most of them have fetal cell lines in it, and you kind of go like, whoa, I didn't know that I was having basically aborted kids in my vaccinations. There's a lot of weird things that you can look into with that and go, why do they want abortion so badly? 6 weeks should be enough. Like, conservatives are willing to cave to 6 weeks. I want it at 0. I don't want it at all. But 6 weeks, we're giving you that. You should know by then and then be able to take care of it. But when you have, like I said, I'm from California, 9 months there. We got 9 months and that's not enough. Maybe a little afterbirth.
Well, to wrap it all up with the abortion topic, where do we stand on abortion? Where do we think it should be? Completely illegal all the way across the board on a federal level? I think society's too degenerate to have no backlash from that. I mean, people, it's so crazy how passionate the radical left is, and even some moderate people that support abortion are about it. It's crazy. I don't know that you could do it peacefully. It should be a states' right thing, if you ask me.
But I come from California, so then I look at it going like, there should be a little bit of restrictions, because California, it's 9 months.
Dang.
And so that's one of the reasons why I go back and forth to the federal, back to the states, go back to federal, go back to the states, where I go California, New York, Oregon. All of these states are basically 9 months. And then you're watching different people such as Ohio this week try to get into their constitution that they want abortion to a later date. They want it in their constitution for protections. And you kind of go like, maybe there needs to be a federal ban. I know that's going to be super unpopular. Do you remember when Donald Trump was having his town hall with, I forget her name, but it's a CNN town hall where she kept on pressing him to try to get him to say a federal abortion ban?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get him to say that because they know it would be very unpopular. But at the same time, sometimes the unpopular thing has to be done in order to save America, save the people, save culture. People may hate you for it, but they're going to thank you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sometimes you need to take a painful cure. It's like chemotherapy. Sometimes you got to take it to the brink of collapse before you can actually save it.
It's such a toxic culture to have. Just like, I'm still just trying to wrap my mind that someone thinks it's just the solution. Like, what?
It's the final solution.
Seriously.
Gas the babies.
Planned Parenthood solution is not working. But why? Like, what? They see the problem. I mean, what is the problem for somebody to have an abortion? Like, why do you think they don't want the kid?
I know what the liberal left will say. What about rape, incest, and
that is like a sliver of
like
everything. It's like less than 1% of it.
Yeah.
Like, you look at any statistics, like, it's like 70% of it is probably for economic reasons or stability or financial reasons.
Yeah.
And it's just like irresponsible sex. Like, you can't just, sex has consequences. Like, people just want to have consequence-free sex all day, and then they make the argument, oh, well, I was forced to be pregnant. Like, I've heard this argument before, that, like, a man forced me to be pregnant, and it's just like, you don't just randomly fall on a dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not how this works.
That doesn't how it happens? That's not what happens?
No, you don't just randomly fall on a dick and get pregnant. Like, it's by choice and by the choices you make, and that's why, culture is just super important to move forward, move us away from, aborting children. And then they also interchange the whole, ectopic pregnancies and this whole thing. It's like, there's a difference between abortion, ectopic pregnancies. Like, if somebody's life is on the line, they're going to do anything to keep that person alive and try to keep the baby alive at the same time. We're talking about senseless abortion. Senseless abortion because you can't handle something, because you can't handle the consequences of your decisions in life.
And that's the 98% of actual abortions are right there, is choice. And so I think that the reason why abortion is so prevalent and they're trying to fight for it so hard is getting rid of accountability. If you can get rid of accountability for a culture, you're able to destroy it, because your actions no longer have consequences. You can stay in Foreverland for as long as you'd like, because you no longer have to live with the results of your actions. And that's one of the saddest things is we're seeing that, not just in abortion, because people want to have sex without the consequences of it. We're seeing it in so many other different aspects. The welfare state that America is becoming. People don't want the responsibility for
the highest EQ out of all of us. Tyler, he ranked last for me personally because the way he carries himself. He was ranking intelligence based on his point of view and not taking in other people's point of views.
So number 1 is Raymond. Number 2 would be Kaylee. Number 3 will be Tyler. And number 4 would be Shada. Number 5 is Sean, and number 6 is Maria.
112.
I'm 21.
You're dumb.
I'm a high school graduate.
I'm kidding. You
and
can't
I
say
work
that on
in
there. Sponsors will take us off.
I know. I don't want to lose our sponsorships. We got some really great sponsorships coming soon, and I want to lose them.
Micah, they're not going to buy your gold.
Buy gold. Patriot. Are you tired of inflation?
Buy gold now.
Exactly. We're going to get a link eventually, you know? We're shill for some shekels.
Shill for some shekels. But anyways, that right there is a prime example of an entitled, young, indoctrinated, most likely liberal. No, not most likely. They are liberal. I mean, look at the way they dress. But anyways, most likely they are just completely indoctrinated with the corporate, narrative. And the fact that you sit there and say that a Marine Corps is dumb just because they're a Marine Corps, you never judge a book by its cover. I mean, as soon as I saw this video, the intro, I knew she was going to rank dead last in IQ.
Yeah.
And it typically seems that way, that higher education people, like, they might be book smart, but it doesn't equate to having a higher IQ.
Not even just book smart, because I know I got my degree, and it was nearly effortless, and it didn't really require any intelligence to get my degree. My degree in business, easiest thing in the world, anyone can get that. I feel like I could even teach someone a different language to get the same thing I got, because all of the answers in college are just regurgitating the propaganda that they give you. Because, like, for example, I went to school for business, and I had to take 2 Indian studies classes. I had to learn about indigenous people twice, 2 classes to pass my humanities. Didn't learn a thing in that. It's not what I went to school for. And that's one of the biggest problems, is they're pushing a whole bunch of different stupid stuff that you have to learn, and not actually learning about how to code, how to use practical application of intelligence, and
how to use, not a checkbook, but how to use financial tools and navigate the financial system. They don't teach you any of that. Just a little practical education. But
yeah. The things that probably you should be learning in school is how to use credit, how to balance a checkbook, and how to use Excel. Like, those are the 3 things that people should be teaching in school. Like, for example, I have not used anything from my college degree except for Excel. Only thing I've used.
And you don't need a college degree to use that.
And you don't need a college degree. It's free on Google if you use Sheets. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm so for private education. You have no idea, man. I like public education, but it doesn't really do a service for the American people, just because there's not any competition. I think it should be a system where the teachers compete for the interest of the students versus having all our property taxes go towards education. The teacher should be incentivized, because what do we see? These crappy unions where they get tenure. They don't even have to be that good of a teacher. They can just literally get by teaching the curriculum and having a few good test scores. But I don't think test scores really translate to real success in life. Our entire school system is memory based. It's not practically based, right? They literally just it's all based on how much you remember. Okay. Yeah. You should have a good memory. You should be able to memorize things, but having practical applications to your learning, I think, is super critical. have the teachers compete for the interest of the students. And I don't know, that's what we're going to do with our kids is private education. I don't really want to do the public education system. One, because of the worldview indoctrination in certain schools, especially when you go to like liberal schools, and just the quality of education at the same time.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on homeschooling? Do you think homeschooling is your...
Homeschooling networks are great. Now, like, people have a misconception of homeschooling. Like, it's just like mom's going to teach the one kid at home all day. There's homeschooling networks that are really great. There's several here in our community. I know several back in my community in Wisconsin that are really great. But it gives those kids the social aspect, because most people be like, oh, well, what about, you know,
kid's weird.
My kid's going to be super weird because he's staying home from school, or he's staying home and, you know, he doesn't get any social interaction. But there is privatized systems that are like basically homeschool systems that work really good. And so you can get that social interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do know that kids need to be socialized, but at the same time, the kids
What
don't...
kind of socialize? Socialized.
Power to the people. But the kids need to have some social interactions. But at the same time, I don't think they need the social interactions with a teacher. Did you see that story? This story came out pretty recently, where this successful businessman pulled his kids from school because the teacher was 200 pounds overweight. His teacher was 400 pounds, and the dad was like, I'm not going to have my kid be taught by a person who can't control themselves, because the person who he spends the most time with is the teacher, and I don't want my kid learning from a person who has bad habits. I'll see if I can pull up that story, because it's one of the most interesting stories.
That is great. Go ahead and pull it up.
Because the dad was like, I'm not going to let... And it became national news. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick.
Seriously. I mean, you have no control over the curriculum. I mean, you don't even really get to... I mean, you get to vote for, you know, like part of the board and the education board in your local community, but at the end of the day, you don't really get to choose the curriculum. It's just not fair to be able to not give the information that is necessary to your child.
Okay, I found the thing. I pulled my kid from school because their teacher's fat. She's a bad influence, and I don't want her low energy near them. And so I think it's kind of interesting because... let me drop the link for you, because it's really interesting, because I kind of agree with that. I don't want my kids learning from someone who doesn't have the self-control not to basically just not be 400 pounds. and I'm 100% with this dad who is...
Oh yeah, I know this guy. He's the real estate dude.
Yeah,
I've watched him. Chris Crone.
Yeah, I'm 100% with him, because it's like, I don't want my kid learning from someone with bad habits. I want my kid learning from, you know, Alexander the Great. He learned from Aristotle, and they conquered the world. You're learning from someone who's 400 pounds and who can't control themselves, trying to teach them good habits and how to be a well-adjusted human.
Good for this guy, dude. Seriously, that's about as base as it gets. Fat shame him.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest things. I was thinking about this a couple days ago. Christians should go harder on fat shaming, because it is the sin of gluttony and laziness. There's two of the 7 deadly sins right there. And when we allow a Christian to be fat, they are quite... It's like any other sin that exists. Why are we allowing that to be in front of kids? Why are we allowing... Let's say someone had severe anger issues. Am I going to allow my kid to be around them? The sin of wrath. If I have someone who's got severe sexual deviancies, am I allow my kid to be around the sin of lust? No. Why would I allow them to be around the sin of gluttony and laziness?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. Props for this guy, though. Pull him out. I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, it's crossed the line. Might offend a couple people with the whole fat thing, but it is what it is, man.
It is.
It improves your quality of life if people focus. I feel like so many people are just distracted and don't really think about it, or I don't really know what it is. It's a fine line to skate to talk about.
It is interesting because I think we need to have more awareness of that, because we have an obesity epidemic in America right now.
60% overweight, like 40% obese.
Yeah. 60% overweight. Wow. Okay, so 60% of people in America are overweight, and that can be solved by just not eating that 5th meal of the day. That can be solved by skipping that one McDonald's.
So much more than that, dude. I think the health and food issue goes so much deeper than just like what we eat and how we eat. I mean, it's not even so much how we eat. It's more so of like what we eat. The food's not nutrient dense anymore. We're eating hydrogenated oils. I mean, all the oils that are used at every fast food restaurant or mass-produced chain restaurant, for efficacy purposes, they use low-quality oils, like terrible for your gut. They destroy your gut is attached to your brain, right? People don't know this. So it's destroying your gut, destroying your brain. These fats are destroying you. The food is not nutrient dense anymore. I mean, you have to eat like 8 oranges to get the nutrient value of 1 orange a year ago or 100 years ago. So the soil is not good enough for our nutrients anymore. What else? We're so consumed by radical materialism with food. I mean, we're so, it's a psychological thing. Like we eat because we feel good.
Yeah.
We eat to live. We don't live to eat, or we live to eat. We don't eat to live. Is essentially how I look at it, and that's the biggest problem. Is we're just so consumed by things that don't.
And high fructose
benefit
corn
us.
syrup is subsidized by the government. It's the sugar industry is paid billions